welcome to those of you who have joined already. This is a very interesting topic that we're all quite excited to talk to you about today or tonight, this evening. We are Stay Insured. We are formerly MW Expats, but in the last month,
Last month, about
yeah,
4 weeks ago.
about
Was
4
when
weeks
we,
ago, changed to Stay Insured. Everything else is the same though. The staff are the same. The people are the same. But yeah, we are now just Stay Insured.
the actual registration, everything's the same. So nothing's changed. It's just a rebranding to bring us in line with the modern world.
So currently we have over 3,000 clients, or we've helped over 3,000 clients who are still with us today. We are still continuing to work with them. 70% of our staff here at Stay come from different countries. So we have a lot of internationals that are not actually German. So we understand what it's like to go to a new country and try and understand the systems and try and understand how things work. Tonight we have, everyone knows me well. Not everyone.
But
Some
anybody who's
people
been
know
on the
Matthias.
web,
Yeah, this is Matthias. He is the founder of Stay Insured. We'll hear from him in just a second. We're also joined by Philipp. He is with our partner company. And we have Flavio, who is one of our team here at Stay. So I'm going to hand over to Matthias to do a bit of an introduction as to how Stay became live.
Okay. Right. I'd just like to say, before I move on to the topic of today's webinar, I'd just like to explain to everybody again that really everything is the same. We are living in a more and more digital world. People want things short, punctual. We have a new website. We have a complete rebranding. We came to the conclusion that MW Expat Solution Services GmbH is a bit of a mouthful for everybody to say. So we rebranded to Stay. Stay is a word that we can use because it goes together with a lot of our principles, like stay insured, stay invested, stay protected is a good one, stay informed, stay relevant is a very good one.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, that's the reason why we did it. It's been a long, long time in the planning. It's taken us a good 3/4 a year to now be in the position we're in. And it's all to do with digital transformation, the new client portals that we have, the new features that we have coming, push of a button advice that if one of our clients wants to speak to somebody, they can push a button and up comes an advisor straight away. To make our client experience better, basically. Right. So one of the things, if we carry on from that theme, one of the things that we're always trying to do is we're trying to make our user experience better. We're trying to offer the best service possible to all of our clients and all of our prospective clients along those lines. Our products, what we have available for people. In Germany, well, up until now, we've had two solutions really for people. We've had short-term investments over platforms and so on, which don't offer tax benefits, but they are useful in the first 5 or 6 years of an investment. And we've had long-term tax benefited government-backed schemes where everything you pay into them has a tax benefit, but it has to stay there till retirement. And we very, very much struggled to find something sensible for the midterm. Now, if you're German, I think a lot of people know the rules about properties and why investment properties especially are such a powerful tool to do a midterm investment. So basically, we've had short term, we've had long term, but what do you do when your kids go to university in 10, 15 years' time? That's the problem we've had and how best to solve that. So we're very, very, very happy to have a very successful and a very serious partner company that we work together with now. It's been tried and tested over the last year. The client experience has been great, so we're very happy to carry that out into the world. And yes, so if you're coming from abroad and you don't speak German, then an investment property is quite a scary thing, I would imagine. There are a few things. There are 3 points which would even put me off, although I speak German. I don't want to call in the middle of the night to say, my tap's leaking, come and fix it, because I wouldn't know how to, especially if I don't speak the language. I wouldn't know who to call. I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know whatever. All of the paperwork. So you're looking at investment properties. There are rental increases that need to be taken care of. There are renovations at times which need to be taken care of, this, that, and whatever. Again, if I don't really speak the language, well, I can't really help myself. I'm at the mercy of some property management company and so on and so on and so on. So basically, they're things which have made it very, very difficult for us to be able to recommend that. What happens if your tenant stops paying? How do you go about sorting it out? This all problems which are faced. And then there's the basic problems of, well, how do I go about getting a mortgage? What's the best mortgage for me? How high can the mortgage be? What's available? And so on. To bring that all under one hat, so to say, we do have our partner company who will take care of all of that. Meet Philip in a minute. Philip's a very nice man. Philip speaks very, very nice English, and they're basically here to help from day one to the planning, to going to notary, and so on and so on and so on. From an investment point of view, which is really our main topic, in these days at the moment where we have tariffs, where we have uncertainty, where we have wars, where we have whatever, actually having the diversity of a property, something, a material value that you can touch, rather than just holding stocks and shares of, I don't know, Salesforce in Silicon Valley or something like that, which I suppose theoretically you could get on a plane and touch Salesforce, but that's not the same thing. So to have that security and that diversity in your portfolio is something that everybody should think of. The main perception that most people have is that isn't actually affordable for them. But that's not true. Actually, with very, very little investment, you can step on the German property ladder. Stepping in with investment property actually makes sense because later, if you'd like to buy a property yourself, you already have a mortgage record, so to say, which banks look very favorable on if you've had a mortgage and you've been paying it, obviously. So that's what this topic is about. I'm going to hand over to Flavio and Philipp, or back to Sian, I'm not sure, actually, to be honest. And take over for there, listen to what they have to say. It's very, very interesting. I'm sure I'm going to have a couple of questions later on, which I would like to ask. But all I can say is the reason why we're so excited about this webinar is because of the partner company that we have and the experiences we've had with it. And we would now like to take that out and show the world.
Fantastic. So yes, we are handing over now to Philip and Flavio. Before we do that, can I just say, if you do have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat as we go along. And at the end of the session, we will come to all your questions so we can get Philip and Flavio to answer them for you. So guys, take it away. Who's going
Right.
Flavio?
Well, good evening, everyone. I think I'm going to step over, just to back over a little bit what Matthias just shared with everyone right here, and how interesting this investment actually is here in Germany, and even more as a mid-term investment with some tax benefits, which is difficult to find in the end. We are used to long-term investments, in this case, pension plan savings, which will give you some tax reduction across the way, but actually that is meant to be a long-term investment. And we all know how, well, life is tricky. We live in a crazy world nowadays. Hard to actually understand if we're going to be in 5 years, 10 years time or so. Saving for retirement becomes actually difficult in that long term. And so this midterm investment actually has, let's say, an investment horizon of 10 years, so to say, with the ability to actually grab some tax reduction across the way. That's where actually it becomes quite relevant. Tax reduction together with wealth growth can actually become a very, very interesting investment to have on your side here in Germany. Now, to whom it actually is eligible, this type of investment, it's something that Philip will basically help me to understand and to share with you guys. That in the end, this is an investment that for someone being single, being married, the higher income, the higher tax rate, the higher the tax savings you will be able to achieve. And therefore, there are few things that need to be, let's say, checked when it comes to this investment in terms of eligibility. And the first one will be, for example, in terms of the income. So the higher the income, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, the higher it will be the taxable or the income tax rate, even though we have a marginal tax system here in Germany. For those that actually are taxed quite highly, that means that this investment itself could actually become quite beneficial from a tax reduction point of view. But in terms of how it goes, normally it's 100% financed. And so it means we need to have access to a mortgage. And when it comes to making the bridge to the banks and us in the middle with the investors, we have Philipp. Philipp is basically the bridge between us and the banks. And he's very used to actually understand what banks will like to see when we actually are trying to build these investments in Germany. So in this case, if we have a yearly salary of 45,000 per year, it will be a little bit hard because, of course, we also might not have enough cash savings to start the investment and pay the mortgage itself. But let's say that 65,000 as a yearly salary is like the sweet spot when things start to become quite interesting. Where marginal tax rates come closer to 40%, that means that the investment itself is actually going to bring more returns itself through the tax benefits. On the other side, anything that is above that amount of 65,000 euros as a yearly salary means you're just going to grab more tax benefits at the higher marginal tax rate. So more sensible it becomes. But we always quite often see questions about, okay, but what if I have a blue card? What if I have a permanent visa? What does that actually mean for me? And that's where I would actually hand over to Philipp. So he can actually give us a highlight. Okay, if I have a blue card, what does it mean for me? How the bank will actually look at me from that point of view.
Yeah.
So Philipp.
Hi, everyone. I'm Philipp. I'm 41. I turned off my background because I think if a real estate agent is here without a suit and a big beard, I thought maybe the drum set in the back makes sure or explains that I'm a real metalhead in heart. So that's the reason why I turned off the background to see, so everyone could see I'm not fake. I'm as authentic as one can be, and I'm a professional real estate agent. I have some experience. With some experience, I mean around 15 years of doing that stuff. So please ask me anything you want. And Flavio already started with the first question: how taxes or how the tax office would reply on you earning 65,000 or above and investing it in real estate. I can tell you that in Germany, taxes are very high. I think everyone who's living and earning money here knows that already. And now with a little trick, which means investing in real estate, you can pressure the tax office in returning some of your hardly earned money. And yeah, that's exactly what we can provide. How exactly this works will be later in our call, and I will show you how the market looks like. But please, Flavio, can you repeat the question you were asking before I started explaining about my whole life?
Clear. So when we always look at international residents, when we are here in Germany, new to Germany, we're always building different types of residence permits. Blue cards, permanent visas, German passports, citizenships. What does it mean for the bank if I have a blue card? What does it mean for the bank if I have a permanent visa? So what is the difference right there?
It always depends on which bank you need to finance which property and who's coming there. So it's always those three factors. Who is getting a mortgage from whom for what property? The best thing you can have is, please, nothing personal, you can have a German citizenship. Next step, then you are free to go as long as you have enough money on the bank or earning enough money, have enough income, then there's no worries there. The second best is always a so-called settlement permit. So you have a permanent residency and you are allowed to settle in Germany. Doesn't mean that you have a citizenship, but it's the part between a blue card and German citizenship. And if you have this settlement permit, then you are eligible for most of the German banks to give you finance. One thing that I will add is that there are, and I'm sorry for that, there are many banks that require German language to up to a certain degree. Doesn't mean that you have to speak it fluent, but no worries there. We have always banks that are a little bit more modern and more focused on international clients. So English would be very, as long as the notary, which we would go together, is capable of explaining so you can understand.
Why is also relevant is definitely because if you go to the banks and ask for the financing, If I have the blue card, it means that much possibly I will only be financed 80% of the purchase price of the property. But then on the other side, if I actually have a permanent visa or German citizenship, things will become way easier, and it means I can actually get the 100% financed mortgage from the bank. Do you agree?
I agree. With the blue card, it's a little bit harder. And as you can see, or as you can imagine, banks are very, compared to a shy animal who only wants no risk but big returns. So as we all wanted to have it, okay, no risk, big returns. And in the language of banks, it means that the risk of someone who's not having a permanent residency, only, please, only in question marks, is not bad, but they will require a little bit more money. So the lower the mortgage percentage, maybe 80, 70, 60%, the lower the risk for the bank, and then they are more legible to work with you only have a blue card.
There we go. In the end, the purpose of the investment is definitely for us to get to 100% financed mortgage so we can take advantage of the leverage, right?
Exactly. Leverage effect is exactly what we are gaining for, what we're aiming for. Sorry for my English is not perfect, but I'm working on that. And
It's good.
it should be still enough. Yes, and 100% finance is always the dream. So you only have to finance you only have to bring the side cost to the table, which is between 5 and 8.5% of the purchasing price. So we are not talking about 100K investment. It can be way lower than sometimes lower than 20K. So yeah.
There we go. And just a different topic, because it's something that we hear quite a lot here in Germany as well. What about freelancers? How do banks actually look for freelancers, and this investment can actually be suitable for them?
Please accept my please, sorry for language, but freelancers are on the bottom of everyone who's going to get a finance. And that's just because banks, as I said, they are shy. They don't want any risk. They don't want to take any risk. And a freelancer is, is more likely to maybe not get hired compared to someone who is still a permanent job, which, as we all know, you can lose your job within an instant. So I know it's not a realistic evaluation from the banks, but that's how we roll in Germany. Sorry for.
There we go.
Yeah.
Sean,
It
I don't know
is.
if you have any. Yes,
Sorry.
Philipp?
By the way, it is possible. If you are a freelancer and you are a freelancer and you can show a income record of 3 years, then and you can make sure we are able to show the bank that you have ongoing income and that you are on stable footing, okay, then we will be able to do that. But it's a little bit more complicated. They will look into your books and they will look in all of your finances. Okay, so it's tricky, but it's not impossible. Please don't get me wrong.
Could I just ask one question, please, Philip? When we're talking about entry levels and property prices, I know a lot of our clients, they either live in Munich or in Stuttgart or in Hamburg, where we're talking about an apartment starts at 750,000 euros or something like that, which obviously, even if we're talking about 5 to 8.5% entry level, that's still quite a lot of money. How does that actually work with the entry levels?
Yes. What we are providing is that I will show you in a bit, but we are focusing on all of Germany. So we are explicitly looking into good investments, and good investments mostly do not start with €1 million. Okay, they even often start with 100K. Okay, and then they go on 250, 300K. So then if we're looking at maybe 5% or 8% of investment, it's around 20K, something like that. You don't have to live near your investment, because compare it to, and I will do that in a second, we can compare it to an ETF savings plan. That's exactly what we're providing. So if you are investing into real estate, it doesn't have to be around the corner, because should not be your job. It's just an investment comparable with an ETF portfolio, a savings plan. Just think about investing into an ETF, which has included maybe 50 companies or 100 companies, you're also not looking into their basement to see if there are any problems. You're still investing in those companies. And the same should apply for investing in real estate, which is not easy, but that's exactly what we're providing. So it's not necessary that it's in Berlin or that it's in Munich. I will show you some examples.
Okay.
But the due diligence that we are doing, that is necessary so you have a good investment without all the hassle surrounding it.
That's exactly what I always try and explain to our clients. It's numbers more than anything else. It's investment and it's numbers. And if somebody was to come to me or I was to go to any of our clients and say, right, here's an MSCI world, I guarantee you a 10% return per year for the next 10 years, they would bite your hand off at that. And that's the way you have to see it, because that's what's basically on offer for an incredibly safe investment.
Yes, I can only agree on that. If you are investing in the German real estate market, I will show you in a minute what that means and why it's the most secure investment that you can find on earth. I know it's a big term, but German real estate market, you will see it in a second, is not comparable to any other country, and there's a reason for that. We will go through that in some minutes, but it's exactly that. It's very safe, and you have a leverage effect. And the combination of safe, leverage effect, and no hassle, that's exactly what we are looking into. So 10%, we'll show you also in a second, is just the entry level.
It's not this panicking every day looking at your Trade Republic app thinking, oh my God, what's happened overnight kind of thing.
Why you should not buy around the corner. If you just imagine you're on your way to work or you're on your way to groceries and you are coming by your 6-figure investment, you will stop, you will look up, you will see, are the windows closed? Is it raining? Are there curtains in the windows? Is there maybe graffiti inside of the wall? You will always handle those thoughts. And I can just give you from the deepest of my heart, the advice, buy somewhere you never come by. Okay. And this goes on with a good management. So otherwise you will have.
Flavio, did you have a question for me?
No, exactly. I think we are all interested to see what Philipp is about to show.
Absolutely.
In a very short overview, as Philipp just said, this is an investment that actually requires a small amount, as we have been explaining in the last couple of minutes, together with leverage, tax benefits across the way, inflation-protected growth, and still something that I believe we have not yet mentioned as of today, but I'm going to possibly be the first, which is if we actually hold these investments for 10 years, we rent out this property, it's going to be fully tax exempt in Germany for us. So I believe no one has yet mentioned this topic so far, but all of this together actually speaks about this investment. And without no further delays, Philipp, please show us what you have over there, because that's definitely what we want to see today.
Yes. So we will start we will start with the calculation, or do you start with the market and why it's a good investment? What do you want to start with? Sorry.
Let's start with market.
The market.
The market, yeah.
I think that's the best way around, because if you are investing in any branch, in any market, then you should know at least a little bit about it. Okay. What we are looking into is the German real estate market. And I can promise you it's tense. And this is the conclusion, and we are ready now. Now, I will continue and show you what's happening in Germany. Germany, as you may know, is a very industrial country. But as industrial as we are and as modern as we are missing out on something like apartments. It sums up to, in the meanwhile, 1.4 million apartments that we are missing out on, because we are getting more and more German people, citizens, specialists that are joining our working force. So thank you for that. And all of that results in, a big and a very, very tense real estate market. So what we are missing out on are not the penthouses right in the center of Munich and Berlin. What we are missing out on are affordable housing, affordable apartments. And this leads us to the following: rising real estate prices, rising rents, and it's getting steeper and steeper, and it's a very tense market. The result out of that, as you will see, is those are just some pictures from Berlin and from Munich as an example. Okay. We are looking into affordable houses where we often are looking into, maybe you have witnessed it yourself, into situations where on one apartment there are over 300 person interested in that. Yeah, and this results in a unbearable situation that, as you may have noticed, our politicians are not capable of solving, and the market is getting wild. So the only question is, why not use it to our advantage? And this, as you may have maybe see, is not as tricky. That's what I'm in here for. But I don't know if there's an English word for der Sargnagel. So the last nail in the coffin.
Nail in the coffin.
Nail in the coffin, yes.
The nail in the coffin.
The last nail in the coffin of an intense, very, very tense real estate market, which, the relation between demand and offering demand is bureaucracy. We are very good at bureaucracy. I think all of us have witnessed that, and it results in the following. In Germany, we need 100,000 apartments every year, in addition to the so far 1.4 million missing apartments. But to be able to build an apartment in Germany, we are needing a permit. It's a big surprise. Sorry if no one has calculated that, but in Germany, we need a permit for everything. I think everyone knows how sometimes stupid that gets. But the result is that we have a very fast declining number of permits, which then results in a declining construction in completion. Okay. And this also results in the most tense real estate market in all of Europe. Yeah. One of the results of that is that the IFO Institute, which is a very renowned institute in Germany, they are on a yearly quarterly basis, they are making economic experts surveys around the globe for different topics. And one of the topics were, for instance, how the real estate prices on the whole world are behaving, how are they developing in the next 10 years on average. Average means on the countryside to the inner city of Berlin and Munich, Hamburg, something, Frankfurt like that. And they are expecting 7.2% on a yearly basis on average. So this is not just something that they are guessing. They are building their information on real statistics. And as you can see on the next slide, you will see it's exactly what's happening. Those are the increasing rent developments in bigger cities, metropolitan areas. And as you can see, we are not yet with 7% because this is just from 2024 to 2025, so 1 year. And now imagine that you are getting those returns, 6%, on a six-figure number. That's exactly what you are investing in if you're investing into real estate. Because you are not getting 6% on a monthly savings plan, but you are getting this return on invest on a six-figure number that you are investing with the real estate, with the apartment, for instance. And the return opportunities, I will show you just two examples from our portfolio, which we sold 2014, which is now 12 years ago. And I can promise you the last 10 to 15 years were not nearly as intense, or the market was not nearly as tense as it is today. So we are looking at a bigger development. 2014, we sold this apartment for around 3,500 euros per square meter, and now it doubled, nearly doubled. This is around 88% increase in only 12 years. So you can imagine if you are investing a six-figure number, it just doubles after 10 years. This is just what happened in the past. It's not nearly looking at what's going to happen in the next 10 years. On the rent side, it's even increasing more. As you can see, the rent just increased by 140% over the last 12 years. And this is as you can see, near Munich, but it doesn't have to be near Munich. As you will see in the next offer, it's in Hanover, and we are only talking about a development of 9 years. And in those 9 years, we could increase the property price from 1,900 euros per square meter to 3,300. That's an increase of 74% in only 9 years on a 6-figure number. And on the rent side, it also doubled. So you can see we are always investing into real estate that's low on the evaluation, but then we have a high outcome in the next 10 years because there is a way to go. Okay, we are not investing, and this is one big issue. We are not investing into the $2 million apartment in the inner city of Munich. That's not the idea, because that's parking money. That's not investing money. And I will show you, I will also explain everything surrounding that. This so far for how the German market is developing, why it's so tense, and how you can use it to your advantage. Also show, if you would like that, Flavio, is a calculation, or should we do that later when you prefer?
Well, I would say I would be up to it right now because that's definitely the most interesting part.
Most
So
interesting.
straight away, that's my opinion about it. Of course, I mean, this background about why this investment in Germany speaks for itself.
Yes.
I think we all gave that for granted, but
Yeah.
we want to see the numbers. The
You wanna
numbers
see the
is what
numbers.
makes sense for us in the end.
I brought you some numbers. Okay, no worries there. Is it big enough to recognize, you think?
Yeah.
For me, it's fine.
Yeah. Matthias want to ask something. I can see it in his face. That's the way.
No, can I just say that it's really, really important when we're talking about the tax savings and that we actually explain why and on what we can save, where that actually comes from, so it's tangible for our
Yeah.
listeners.
I will do so. So
Thank you.
first, what I brought with me is a real and available real estate apartment. Okay, it's not something fake. I can show you on our website. It's looking like that. I know this is a rendering, but this is the quality we are looking at. Renderings are looking good, but the reality is the same except for the balconies. As you can see, it's missing out right now, but it will be installed. And as you can see, they are looking exactly like the rendering. So what we are offering is the reality and not some fake AI picture. Okay. This is very important. All of the apartments can be renovated. They can also be older, but you will always know and see what's the consequence of that. And so we will make sure that you feel good with it and you know what to invest in and what's the consequence of that. So you have a picture of a real offer that we can make that on real investment. Some pictures are one of those apartments, so you can see, and please, the furniture is optional. Okay, it's you can see what we are offering. We are always providing pictures so you know what you're investing in. So as I mentioned, compared to most companies and the basement and all of the dead bodies in the we don't have such things. So what we are looking into here is a available apartment, and I brought some numbers with me. This apartment in Dresden is going for 279,000 euros. And I am showing you what the real investment would be. So in this case, I will show you just one second, please. Just bear with me. What you're seeing is a completely complex Excel sheet, which we will go into in one-on-one appointments. What I will show is what you would bring to the table is 21,000 euros. So as you can see, the leverage effect in this would be that you are investing 21,000 euros, but you are moving around 279,000 euros, which is around 1 to 12, or 1 to 13, 15, something like that, nearly, that you are moving on the real estate market. So imagine you have an ETF savings plan, and from day one, signing the contract with the notary, you are moving around nearly 300K. All that you invested was 21. So the leverage effect is very high. Now, in the first 36 months, you are with an income of in this case, 85,000 euros. Just as an example, we can adjust that on your individual situation, which, as I mentioned, we would go into detail with a one-on-one session. So we can look at individual calculations and preferences. We will then go with your income. I just take 85 because that's one of my average clients. And in this case, this is your salary before taxes. With the investment in the first 36 months, you will be able to reduce your taxable income from 85 to 67,000 euros, which then results in a tax return of nearly 8,500 euros. So the tax office, I can promise you, will not be happy, but they are bound to rules, which is Germany. They have to pay you that money, which then results in a monthly tax return of around 700 euros. And that means that your monthly investment is not around 800 euros for a mortgage of K nearly. It's only 89 euros in the first 3 months. So we are looking at,
First 3 years.
that's what I said, comparable to an ETF savings plan. You are only looking at around 100 euros of investment in this specific situation, always depending on your salary in combination with the mortgage and the real estate you choose. After the first 36 months, there are some tax benefits going away, which then results in a tax return of only 6,800 euros. And then you have a monthly savings plan of around 222, 230 euros. So this is what on average people are doing into a monthly ETF savings plan. Please correct me if I am comparing that wrong, but that's my experience.
A bit on the low side, but yes.
That would be on the low side, yeah.
Yeah, a bit on the low side. If you want to seriously plan for your future, then 200 euros is a good starting point. If you're young, it's very good.
Yeah. So the good thing about a small investment on a monthly basis is you don't have to choose between an ETF savings plan and a real estate investment. So they, in combination, are symbiotic. They are working very good together. First, you use an ETF savings plan, a plan for a short-term investment and to gain the money so you can then leverage it into real estate investment, and then you can have it both at the same time. Why not? Okay. And if we are looking into the return on invest, I am here calculating with the average inflation of 2.5%, which is the average inflation for the last 56 years. That's an official number in Germany. And if you are only looking into an inflationary increase, 2.5% every year, this is not showing you the real tense relation between offer and demand. This is only inflation. This is going to happen either if we want it or not. It's always going to be like that. This return will give you a return on invest, a ROI of 14% on your invested capital, which is tax-free after 10 years. So after 10 years, you will have gotten 14% per year on your invested money. After taxes, this is without a rent increase. This is without you earning more money, which would result in a higher tax return. And this is also without any additional cost. So this is after our cost. If we now, and as I showed you, the IFO Institute is looking into a 7% increase on average over the next 10 years, I will not go there because maybe you will think I'm a charlatan if I use those numbers. So I will just go with maybe 4% because 4% is what's happened the last 15 years on average in Germany. Average still meaning countryside, where many people are moving away to metropolitan cities. And this is on average. On average, you made with real estate in Germany 4% on the buying price of the real estate, not on the monthly savings plan, which would result in nearly 20% return on invest, tax-free after 10 years. So far, so good. Flavio, makes sense?
That's it.
So far, so good. And quite interesting for a midterm investment. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
For now.
Sorry if I overpaced in time. That's how I
No.
roll.
No, Philip, really good. I have to say, every time I sit here, and I've obviously done this a few times now with our clients, for a very, very safe investment, we're not talking about a risk class 4 ETF or something like that. To get, well, even to get 10, 11, 12% return is sensational. So they sort of blow me every time when I watch that.
Of course, still happens to me, and I'm doing that for 15 years now.
And as I say, it is a tried and tested system. So we have clients who are invested like this, and it's fantastic for them.
Yeah.
Well, I
Do you
think
have
I
any,
would still,
Flavio?
I think I would still break down everything that we have discussed so far, so that
Please.
everyone on the webinar actually understands what we are speaking about. Because in a small bullet point, we're speaking about buying a property in Germany, 100% financed, so we can use leverage to maximize the growth. And in the meantime, we are going to use the tax system here in Germany to grab tax benefits along the way. As Matthias asked a few minutes ago, there are certain costs when we buy a property that can be offset against taxes. We're speaking about the interest of the mortgage, we are speaking about maintenance of the property, and we are speaking as well about depreciation of the property. This property itself that Philipp has in his portfolio has suffered modernization. So it was renovated. And what Philipp does quite well is that when anyone buys a property from their portfolio, Domicil will pass over the modernization costs to your own personal situation, to your personal tax status.
Yes.
And that will actually enable everyone here in Germany to offset those modernization costs against taxes. And that's what in the first 3 years is going to actually grant those massive tax savings that Philipp just shared with us in this investment. That's the monetization costs being taken into account and be offset against taxes. That's like big plus in this investment.
Yeah.
Rental management done by Philipp. Everything that basically needs or causes an headache, it doesn't really matter because Philipp is there as the company to sort out all of that.
I will just interrupt. It's not done by me because then I would
Of
not
course.
be here right now. But
Yeah.
we have a good team of
Yes,
around
true.
140 people doing that, just to make
True,
sure that no
true.
one is expecting that. Sorry.
Just trying to keep it simple. That's all it
I
is.
know. Sorry.
And in the end, rental increases, finding new tenants, and so on, all done by Domicil in the end. And yeah, you're just grabbing this appreciation of the property, which, as
Yeah.
Philipp just shared with us, something close to 7% on average for the next 10 years. It's something that we should all pay attention to. And the rental incomes will also add to the investment itself, plus the tax exemption at the end after 10 years of renting out this property.
Yes.
Okay, I think that in a nutshell, this basically resumes the investment itself.
Exactly.
It still
Yes.
doesn't really solve our problem though. So obviously it's a great investment, but it looks terribly complicated, and it looks like a lot of hassle. Especially, as I say, if you don't understand the system in Germany, you don't know how rental increases work, you don't know how to organize somebody. The thing, apart from the numbers, which sold us as a company to choose Domicil, or we're lucky enough to have Domicil as a partner, has to do with the whole service and the pooling system. I think, again, the three things which will personally always put me off property as an investment is, right, the hassle, the paperwork to make sure everything's done properly. And also, what happens? I've got a big mortgage, my tenant doesn't pay, I can't get rid of my tenant, and so on. And that for me was just like, okay, the returns are great, but maybe I will just use an MSCI World because it seems a lot less hassle, if you know
Yes.
what I mean. And I think that's really, apart from the numbers, the big plus side of you as a partner. And I think that needs explaining and bringing across.
Definitely. Yeah. If one of you can explain the pooling system and how that
Uh,
works and how it would benefit people.
I'm happy to do that. Flavio or Matthias, and yeah, whenever you have a question, just interrupt.
You're the expert, Philip.
Come on, Philip. It's all on
Yes.
you.
Yeah, you're the expert.
Rental pool system.
Okay, so this is us. We are right now. We are nearly at 3 billion euros on asset management. We have around 140 employees, and we sit in Munich, so we know the prices. Okay, you don't want to see our rent on our office, but other topic.
Ignore
What
that.
we are looking into is the iceberg of investing into real estate. Okay, it comes with benefits. That's what you see. Okay, and then we look at what you don't see. First of all, the benefits is you have a inflation protection because, as I showed you, the inflation is not your enemy. It becomes your best friend because it's pushing the price of the prices. It's increasing the price of your property, which you are gaining from. So inflation becomes your friend. We have a high tax return, which Flavio perfectly explained. Thank you for that. And we have a retirement provision. So you can use it. You can own it for more than 10 years. You can pay it off, and you will always get retirement out of it or not, whatever you prefer. And it's comparable if you are choosing a concept like we are offering, then it's comparable to an ETF savings plan. And of course, as mentioned, you have the leverage effect, which has a very big ROI, return on invest, as I mentioned. And on the other hand, it's also very secure investment into the German real estate market because we just don't have enough apartments and you could benefit from it. That's the reason why I love to explain it to as many people as I can. So if you think someone else is needing to hear that, just forward them to us so we can be part of the next presentation, for instance. Okay. What you have on the other side, which, as you mentioned, sometimes nobody talks about, but everybody thinks about and has emotions in that regard, are the potential risks. The risks are, for instance, rental losses. So a tenant is not paid, or sometimes the administrative burden, as you mentioned, Matthias. That's exactly what I am not happy about. That's the reason why we are offering the following. We have hidden defects like the building. There can be defects that you don't know of. Then you have to push. Then you have to send to pay some bills that you did not calculate with, which could decrease your return on invest. You have unpredictable maintenance in the future. That can also happen. You have market and price fluctuations if you are not investing in the best areas in Germany or outside of Germany. Your vacancy, so there's no rent at all. And welcome to Germany. You have bureaucracy. I hate it, but we found a solution for that. And that's exactly what we are offering. We are melting the lower side of the of the iceberg, and it results in our concept. And I show you exactly what that means. We are choosing our investments, our real estate investment wisely. So we are looking into the location. We are always focusing on metropolitan regions and migration locations with excess and demand, with excess demand. So we are looking into statistics. We are looking in the last 10, 15 years, we are looking in investments that going into those locations, into those areas. So we get a feeling and a statistic on how this is going to be developed. So as I mentioned, it looks like we have a glass bulb for the future, which you can rent on a fee of around 11,000 euros per month. No, just kidding. So we don't know the future, but we are very good at predicting it, and that's what we are doing for nearly 17 years now. On the other side, we are always looking into the building because we are providing existing buildings that have no renovation backlog. So we are using the TÜV North, TÜV South. Maybe you have heard about German TÜV. It's also available not just for cars, also for buildings. So we are sending them in. They are not working with us, but they are not working for us. They are working with us. So they are not inclined with us. So it's because we are, after you may have bought it, we are managing it. We are looking into the real thing. We want to know what's wrong with the building. What is there something to do? Are there maintenance costs that could maybe hit us on the head in 3 years? That's exactly what we want to know, so we can calculate it in. It's not as bad. It's not bad if you are maybe investing into a renovation, but you have to know it so you can calculate it and then use it for your advantage. For instance, as a tax return vehicle. That's what we are doing. Then the tenants. And this is exactly what Matthias mentioned. If a tenant is not paying, what's to do? Okay. Because I can promise you the bank is collecting the money on a regular basis every month, and they are keen to do that. Okay. They will not stop with that. But if the rent is not flowing, then it becomes a burden, and we don't want that. So we are offering a rental pool security. So you will always collect rent. There's no way that is not happening. Okay, so that is what we are providing. You have the safety net that normally you don't have, and this is only for the tenant. So even if you don't have a tenant because he's moving out and you need a new one, that's exactly what we're doing. We're finding you a new one, and it's costing you nothing. Normally, that would be 2 months of rent. Now imagine if you have a 10-year time frame of owning an apartment and you have 3 tenant changes, then it's around a half a year of rent that you're missing out of. That's not happening with us. And all of that rises and falls with a good administration. So a good management is the key to that. Then, because if you don't have a good management, then it becomes a burden, and we don't want that. Your investment should not be an additional job. You have a job. Most of you will work at least 40 hours, maybe more. I can imagine that. And that should not be an additional job and be an investment that's making you capable of reducing your hours because you have an investment that's making you wealthy. So this is exactly what we're offering. We are offering a house and a rental management. And we are taking over your responsibility, because if you are owning property, it comes with rights and responsibilities. The rights are yours, we caring about the responsibilities, and this is exactly what we do. So this is how our system works, and you will get all of the information on the property that you are interested in if you are sitting with me in a one-on-one session and see how this could play out in your individual situation. Is that an answer for you, Matthias?
Well, 3 questions.
Oh no.
Oh, mate. Sorry. Right. So if I understand this rightly, I go to notary and, well, I do understand it rightly, to be honest, but I just need to make sure that everybody else understands it.
Yeah.
So I go to notary and the property is actually my name. Okay. I'm the fully legal owner of the property. And from there on in, it's my property, but Domicil will carry on through their pooling system and everything, the management service. Correct?
Yeah. Correct.
Question number 1. That was. I think I've forgotten question number 3. So I'll do question number 2. I'd like to go back to the rental pooling system and just the way I always like to explain this. Domicil, the way it functions is when they buy a property, they buy the whole complex.
Yes, that's correct.
And in theory, there are 100 apartments in this, just basic numbers, 100 apartments in this complex.
Mhm.
Okay, and each apartment pays €1,000 rent, just to make it easy.
Yes.
So if either mine, or to be fair, somebody else's rental tenant doesn't pay his rent, then instead of getting €1,000, I will get €990, and that way I have the security that I'm never left. That's a simple way of explaining it, isn't it?
That's the simple way of explaining it. Of course, it will be €1,000. How that is working would be, I think, a little bit far ahead for today, but it's exactly how it works. So the rent that we calculate for your specific apartment is exactly what's going to be paid to you. And how this is possible is there is a money buffer that every apartment complex is coming with. So the 100 apartments that you were mentioning, they all have with the Domicil is paying is providing a money buffer, okay, a money pool that everyone can use if needed. And the result is that for the first 3, 4, 5 years, depending on the property, you don't get more than a specific rent, but you also don't get less. And after that, in this time span, the money that we provide will be exchanged, and then you will go on and get, after those 5 years, you get a increase of the rent, and you don't felt any need to fill this money pool yourself, but you did. Sounds
Perfect. Yep,
complicated.
I was going to say maybe a little bit complicated for now.
I know.
Whatever, but in theory,
Listen,
I'll
why
get
not
a apartment.
everybody? Why not?
€1,000 rent. I remember my first question now.
Oh, perfect.
Because I go to notary and it's in my name and everything.
Yeah.
Is it possible for me, because you keep saying you'll explain exactly what the property looks like, this, that, in theory, could I actually go and visit my property?
If you want to, of course. It should
Okay,
be your
perfect.
property. You will receive upfront a walkthrough the apartment. So we made pictures, as mentioned. The pictures look exactly like the apartment looks. So you get
Okay.
a protocol of what's the state of the apartment, who lives in there, how do the pictures look, and we provide that. So it's not necessary to visit it, but you are always able to do that. If you want to look into the specific apartment, it always has to be allowed by the tenant, of course, because all of our apartments are rented out. So there is a tenant, which also results in you will get a rent from month number 1, of owning it. But you make it sure that even if the tenant is not happy or it's not working out with an appointment, then you would still can look at the building, at maybe in another apartment. But yeah, we are also providing all information that's necessary to make a decision.
Okay, perfect. Right. So we are going to do some quickfire questions with Philipp and Flavio. If you all have any questions, I'm sure some of you must have questions. Please write them in the chat while we
Yes.
do this little quickfire sort of true and false question and answers. It'd be good to get your questions while the experts are here. You may as well ask the questions of what is stopping you from entering into the German market? You know, is it a particular reason, or you must have questions? So this is just true and false, guys. While people hopefully write some questions in of what they want to ask. So true or false? You must be a German citizen to purchase an apartment in Germany.
That's
False.
false.
False?
Yes.
Okay. Foreigners can purchase property in Germany without special permits.
That's also false. You need at least a blue card. Better would be a permanent residency, but you don't need to be a citizenship.
Okay. The purchase price listed is the purchase price listed. I don't even know what that says. We'll leave that one. Buying an apartment in Germany usually involves high upfront transaction costs.
That's false.
Kind of just explained that, haven't we? So, hopefully everybody knows that now. The notary is optional when buying a property in Germany.
Also false. You
False.
need a notary.
Okay. You automatically own the building roof and exterior walls when you buy an apartment.
That's true.
Yeah.
At least part of it. It's not only your roof, you're sharing it. The other.
Banks in Germany never offer mortgages above 60% loan to value.
Also false.
That's
Okay.
also false.
Yes.
Apartments are typically sold fully renovated and ready to move in.
Also false. So I think
False.
we are on a streak with the false. No, it always depends on every apartment. Some are renovated, some are not, resulting in different tax return.
Okay. And major renovations inside an apartment may require approval from the other owners.
It's also false. So if you want to renovate the apartment that you own, you don't have to ask all the tenants, except if you want to break walls to the outside, because this is community property.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Because no one seems to have any questions. Everyone is
Are there
quiet
no questions?
tonight. No, there's no questions coming up. We have one.
Normally that is kind of it explaining
Yeah, we
topics.
have quite a few. So we have one that says, do you deal only in tier 1, tier 2 cities, or do you also have options available in smaller cities, e.g. 91541?
Somewhere close to
We
Nuremberg, I
also,
imagine.
yeah,
Pardon?
I know this small city. I have never been there, but I know where it is. Right now, we don't have any offers in this specific area. But as you have seen with the example of Hanover, it is a little city in the front or near Hanover. We are also providing tier locations, which are always extremely near to tier 1 and tier 2 locations, so they are profiting from those metropolitan areas.
But as you said, it's probably better to buy a property that's not anywhere near where you're living, so you don't have to do that drive past. You know, you can just leave it in your hands and you carry on.
If it happens to be around the corner and it's a good investment, I think I can make an exception
Yeah.
for you. But we will always look into the numbers. So, as you know, an investment should not be emotionally bounding. Okay, it should always be numbers and investment, and you should not emotionally care about it. Otherwise, it will just hinder you.
Yeah, it's not an investment property then, is it? If you're emotionally sort of attached to it.
It's wrong.
Yeah. I have a question that someone asked me a couple of days ago. Once the 10 years is up, obviously you can sell the apartment for tax-free if you wanted. Do you have to sell the apartment after 10 years? Do you
Yes.
have an option?
No, just kidding. No, you don't. No.
Really?
No, you don't have to. You can just keep it. You can pay it off. And we will always call it a luxury problem. After 10 years, or let me rephrase it, after 9 years, we are looking, the client and I, as an example, we are looking each other in the eyes and just look into the market. How did it develop? Is it clever to sell it next year after 10 years? It is only clever to sell it if you know what to do with the money you're earning. Do you have a better investment? Maybe sometimes it always depends on the market. There's not a better investment, so we are keeping that one. And the goal is that after 10 years, you are not paying anything on a monthly basis anymore. So if it's not a monthly burden, okay, non-monthly savings plan, if it's leveling out, then why sell it? You can always keep it. But sometimes it's possible that if you sell it with your earnings or with your profit, you can then turn one apartment into 2 or 3 apartments that are paying themselves off without you having any monthly payment to do. So this would be a bigger leverage effect. Always personal and individual situation, but it's still a luxury.
So along those lines, when we always talk, obviously we've introduced this as a midterm 10-year investment when it becomes capital gains free. My gains. It is also possible to keep and use it as part of my retirement planning.
Of course, that's exactly what I do.
Perfect. And I think for a lot of our clients who come from around the world, was one thing about Germany is we are not the most exciting country in the world. Let's be honest about it.
Oh.
We are fairly dour in a lot of things, but we are very, very stable compared to most of the rest of the world. We don't do big crises. We don't do whatever. So the idea, even if I go back to my home country, or in my case, I will definitely look to retire somewhere in the sun, I can still keep the apartment in Germany as my safe rental income, which I can then use for my pension. So it's a very, very safe way of making sure that my base pension box is safe. Nobody's going to touch that. And I think that's another way of looking at it, which we don't, because we always think about. The nice thing is, compared to the normal pension investments that we have, is it's after 10 years very, very flexible. I'm not tied in until I'm 65. Never know what life's going to bring, and you never know what disasters come along the way. So the idea of having that option, I think, is great, the flexibility, but also it's a great pension plan.
I can agree with you on that. It's even if you are not living in Germany, but you have an investment in this market, we are tending to regulate. But with regulation comes security that many countries in the world are missing out on. So, we are so stable and so regulated that it's very secure. That's exactly what I was getting at earlier, that this is one of the most secure investment on the planet. And so even if you don't get the tax return in the future or just part of the tax return because you are moving out of Germany, you are not taxable in Germany, but your income with this apartment is taxable in Germany. So you will still use tax return. Okay, not as much as you are living here, as when you are living here, but it will still be a very good investment. It will still be 2 figures.
Really.
Yeah,
Mm.
perfect. We do have another question which someone has asked, is there a brochure which we can download? We are doing one-to-one sessions. You would like to book a consultation with Flavio, with Philipp, with one of the other members of the team, we will be putting a link. I think the link went on earlier, but we can put it on. And you'll also receive an email. A couple of hours after the show finishes, you will receive an email and the link again will be on there. So if you do want that one-to-one, it's no obligation, it's free of charge. Come and have a chat with Flavio, Philipp, one of the team, and just see if this is an option for you. Many people think that it's not because of lots of different boundaries and hurdles, but it's always worth asking the question. As you can see, Philipp's super lovely. He doesn't bite. Sometimes.
We like Philip.
we like
We like
Philipp.
Sometimes I buy it, but
Flavio as well.
no. But what I can offer is a small brochure that I will provide to you, so you can forward it via email to everyone who's participating. Yeah, it's a short one with just some some basic information, so you have a reminder and can look on it, and then realize that it may be worth a call.
Yeah, what we would like to do from a coordination point of view, obviously there's a lot of people in this webinar, and I imagine the interest will be very high because it is such a sensible, hassle-free thing to do, is to arrange a call with one of our stay advisors who will then coordinate with Philipp, because Philipp is going to be a very busy man after today. And so we can organize it through that. We can get the initial information that Philipp will need, that we will need, so we can do some groundwork up front, so to say, and go that way. That makes a lot of sense. As you can see, Flavio is also a very nice man, and I can tell you our others are quite nice as well.
And he really likes them.
And I really, yeah. And the thing about Flavio, he does like a property.
He does like a property. And Philipp and Flavio work quite well together. So yeah, very good team.
You
Okay.
should listen to our, you should listen to our calls.
Maybe we'll leave them. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining. As I said, you will receive an email with all the topic that we've discussed tonight, so you won't have missed anything. You will also receive the link as well. So if you wanted to book your free consultation, we are quite busy this week, I think. I checked your diaries earlier, guys. So yes, do get in quickly and we can arrange that one-to-one with you. As Matthias says, it will be with one of the advisors first, and then we can grab Philipp and get him involved. So yeah, I think that's that done. We have got another webinar arranged in a couple of weeks. We're not sure on the topic just yet, but keep your eye out for the email. And yeah, thank you for joining.
That was from my side. I have to say I really enjoyed this webinar. I'm really, really grateful that Flavio and Philipp joined us. Again, I'm really grateful that we're building up a network of great partners like Domicil, like Philipp. What we're trying to do with the rebranding, with everything, is we're striving to make our customer experience better. And we're actually here to help. We're here to help people who come to Germany and they're a little bit lost. And that's what we're there for. So even if you just have a question, you want some advice, do I actually need this? Do I whatever? Just always contact us.
Yeah, we don't just do houses.
We don't just do houses.
We do everything.
But we like
insurance,
houses,
but we
and
like
especially
houses.
Flavio likes a house.
Right, thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Philipp. Thank you, Flavio. And thank you, Matthias.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
No problem. See you all soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.